on the new WPVM LP in Asheville, North Carolina. You can also listen online at WPVMFM.org and watch us on WPVM's Facebook page. And Trissa, if you want, you can wave to all your fans and friends in Facebook land.
Hi!
Okay, and I think they're watching us. And each week we focus on the Asheville theater scene as well as on positive news and information about people and organizations in the Asheville area. And toward that end, it's my pleasure to introduce my first guest, Trissa King.
Hello.
Okay, hello, Trissa. And Trissa King is a singer, actor, music director, barefoot human, and competitive runner. And we want to talk about all those things, Trissa.
Oh, good.
Okay, and the first question I ask, though, as I introduce Trissa, who's, as she calls it, a native California girl who's lived in Asheville for 4 years, mother of 4, grandmom of 1, and I love it, volunteer with whoever will have you.
Correct.
Okay, that's super, and you certainly do a lot of volunteering work.
I sure do.
But Trissa, the great thing talking to you is the fact that we can talk about 73 things. So let's take maybe one at a time. Let's talk a little bit about your acting and performing background. And you started out, I know you told me, you started out as a child. When did you start studying music?
Oh, gosh, I probably took piano lessons when I was around 5 years old, and I stuck with it much to my frustrations and things. But I thought, I better stick with this because eventually it's going to pay off. And then from there, on a whim, when I was in junior high school, friends of mine were auditioning for this musical that was called The Mikado. And ever since then, I was kind of intrigued with the whole theater scene. But up until then, I never sang. I never did any of that, but I always played the piano.
Now, was The Mikado your first role?
Yeah, I was I think 13
Okay.
back then, yeah.
Here's an idea I have, and I've shared it with several others. I'll get your reaction to it, too. But what I think we should do, Trissa, like that role at 13, do they have a videotape of that somewhere?
No. It was back in late 60s. No, they wouldn't have that. No.
Somebody could have taken a film of it. But wouldn't this be a cool idea that we do a fundraiser and everybody does their first role? In other words,
that'd be awesome.
So to organize, if your kids, they didn't see that when they didn't tape it then, but wouldn't that be great? You could show your kids your first role.
Oh, my
And
gosh.
so everybody would have 5-10 minutes of the very first role they ever did, so you could relive the Mikado.
Oh, my word, yeah, pity sing. Or Ip Guinness, as we used to do it backwards, because we did a lot of backwards things like that. Yeah, that would be, what a great idea.
So take it then from, you did this at the age of 13, Mikado was first role. Did you continue performing?
I was mostly in choirs at that time, and would audition for the a cappella groups and things like that. And I would audition for things in theater and high school, but it wasn't until I got into college and graduate school that I did more of an opera type stuff because I got my master's in voice, and that's kind of like where I was honing. But I always knew in my gut I wasn't going to be doing opera. I mean, I liked it for the technique and the study and the whole musicality of it, but I always had this Ethel Merman in my background that I did on my graduate master's recital as an encore.
What, Ethel Merman?
Yeah, I did. I just did a whole an hour's worth of atonal 20th century music.
Right.
And because I had to do 2 full master's recitals, and that was my second one. So as an encore, nobody on the graduate committee knew this, not even my voice teacher. I came out and did There's No Business Like Show Business, and I thought I was going to get totally nailed to the wall. I ended up getting my master's, but it was just like, oh my gosh, how could you do that?
Did you have to do an encore? Yeah, that was part
Well,
of it?
yeah, I had one prepared, and people were clapping, and I looked at my companies at the time. I said, yeah, let's just go for it. And that's what we did. It was unprecedented.
Now, you said you studied opera. Did you do any opera?
I did a little stuff at school, per se, and I understudied the role of Carmen. Undergraduate school, I did, like little scenes and workshops and things, but it was mainly just vocal things.
This thing that always amazes me about opera singers, it must be hard enough to sing in English, but then have to sing in other languages. Like, do you speak any other languages?
I'm semi-fluent in Spanish, but at the time, especially in getting my master's degree, I had to be proficient, whatever that is, in Italian, German, and French. And my first recital, I had to do what's called the traditional recital. I do the traditional Bach, Beethoven, Schumann, Schubert, Lieder, and had to do all major languages for an hour. like some Poulenc or some like Verdi, that type of thing, and then just sing stuff.
Is that tough to do?
I loved it. I like the flavor of languages. I like the color of languages. So in one way it was, as far as technique, but in another way I just like the color of languages, and I still do. And that's probably why I like doing impersonations and
And
stuff.
we're going to talk a little bit about that, but it ties into something you and I had once discussed about doing an audition. I don't know if you ever did it, but in different voices, as opposed to the typical Trissa King, that you can do. How many voices do you do about?
Do well, maybe I've fiddled with about 10, but they're mostly people that are well known, and then I make my own little sounds that go with them. Like my dogs have a theme song that I made up. I took somebody's melody and I put my own lyrics to it, and every time I sing it, they're at my attention.
What's your dog's theme song?
It's called Bitsy 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 Boo, and it's also good for articulating and getting the vowel and diction sounds out in front of your lips, which is extremely important when you're doing any kind of musical singing, especially Sondheim, which is what I'm doing now, coaching people. in
Well,
that
and
area.
let's talk a little bit about that, kind of fast forward a little bit. So you studied music, and then in the you graduated college. Did you continue with music?
Well, yeah. I mean, I did a lot of theater type stuff in LA and mostly workshops that paid, like we would split the fee at the door. My one claim to fame, and this was back in 1980 when I was in LA, Mickey Rooney was coming to town having open call auditions for the national tour Sugar Babies. I kid you not. So I thought, I'll just go and wait for, behind 200, 300 other people. Got in, sang the song Shy from Once Upon a Mattress. I got 4 callbacks from that. And he and I had some repartee going on, and we would do some business and read some from the script. And I got down to the 4th callback. It was me and about 4 other blondes. And I lost it at the tap combo. I mean, it was just like, it showed it to me twice. And I'm like, and I just couldn't, my brain was fried.
Well, as a compliment to you, this kind of points out something I think you do, and you do it very well. And you and I have talked about this at length. Is the idea that you don't give up. And
No.
I think you're a great story on that. That sometimes you have to go for a lot of parts, and you didn't get that one, but you've gotten some other ones since.
Yeah, it was mostly, workshop type things. And then when I, got married, I decided that was going to be my career in mold humans. And I was off for 30 years. I didn't do anything but raise 4 children. And that's okay because there's drama in that too that I pull from. And yeah, there's a whole story there. But yeah.
Well, I once told you too that talking about that story, I want that someday be your story. I'm looking for the Trissa King story. You
right,
and I have
right,
talked about
my own
this.
show, yeah,
and just about
yeah.
your life. But I think that moves it forward a little bit to how you got into Asheville, and we'll talk about how I first met you. But you came to Asheville, what, about 4 years ago?
It was July of 2015. My spouse had retired, and we have family down here, and we would come down here on occasional vacations, and I was just taken with it. The whole area just was magical to me. There's something about these mountains that are just very, very spiritual to me. And so after much thought, and we decided to come down here after he retired, and it's just been nonstop ever since. I just kind of reinvigorated my love of theater that I had thought was gone. But go ahead.
No, and then it's kind of cool because that's, I think, where I first met you, that you auditioned for a show at ACT. Was that the first show?
Yeah. My dear sister-in-law, Carol King, thank you very much. She told me about this audition at ACT, and I thought, well, I'll just go in and, do something and sing Shy. And the rest is history. I just went on a whim, and I got cast as Cat in the Hat.
And if ever there was a perfect role for you,
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I
yeah,
saw
yeah,
that you just
yeah.
blew me away. That I hadn't known you, and that it was kind of a crucial part in the show, and you just really hit it. Did you have fun with that?
I did. I think I'd like to, like all the roles I've done, if I could go back with who I am now, it would be a totally different presentation.
But that's pretty impressive. That considering you came to Asheville, so your first show you auditioned for, and you got it.
Yeah.
And then, I talked also about this, that the fact that you went for a whole bunch of other stuff and you weren't getting it, but then all of a sudden you started getting stuff again.
Yeah, 2018 was like, I think I was in 6 or 7 shows back to back. And when I was doing in one and rehearsing another. It was really crazy. But I think people go through that in their lives where they go through these spurts where they're busy and then they're not busy. And when I'm not busy, it's time to kind of reflect a lot. And there's reasons why you're not busy and reasons why doors close and open. And I've decided that I'm just going to accept it as it is, not overthink it, and just be grateful for what comes along my way.
I'm always amazed by actors who can, as you said, be in one show, working on another. Have you ever done 3 at a time?
I think I did, but it was like I was rehearsing
Right.
one in one, and I was doing Business Things Broadway. That was my only triple, I think.
But
I
that is tough, I would imagine. You know, to be doing it, and a lot of people do it. You know,
Oh, yeah.
And some, as you said, they're in one, rehearsing another, and then starting reading on the third one.
Yeah, it's schizo brain. It's schizo brain. My brain was going, Pac-Man, crazy.
Is that tough for you to separate the parts?
I don't think so. What I've found that I'm pretty decent at is I can leave my personal life outside and totally focus at what is going on in the job or on stage. And I like that. I also try to bring that same mindset when I audition. Oh, I hate to audition. I hate to audition. I think they're fun. I just enjoy them.
Well, you know, it's funny you say that because I'm now going to be in a play at Magnetic, and I have a smallish part, but I have to work on what you just said, saying I'm terrible at memorization, because once you start saying it, you're going to be terrible, you know, and I just
True.
have to kind of get beyond it.
Right.
Like memorization, give me a quick technique what you do, because you obviously pick up stuff pretty quickly. How do you do it?
Rereading, and it's a process where I'll read it and then come back to it, reread it. I have a very, very good friend of mine who helps me, and we do sessions together where we'll just keep going over it, over and over it, and eventually, it's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. We'll read and rehearse a certain part, and then we'll go back, and then it's imprinting. And then eventually I'll start walking around with it, with the lines, changing my environment, and that locks it in for me. But it depends on what it is. Shakespeare was probably, that about killed me. That about killed me.
Let's talk about that role, one of my favorites.
Oh,
but
my gosh.
Just knocked my socks off. I had seen you always as a musical performer, you know, light kind of funny roles, and all of a sudden you got cast in.
Yeah, Julius Caesar playing the all-female version of Julius Caesar. Phenomenal production of playing Brutus. And that was humbling on many, many fronts. I don't think I've ever worked so hard in a role in my life, ever.
Boy,
ever.
but did you hit it, though? You know, it's just really
Well.
good. And by the way, we can give a shout out. You mentioned a good friend of yours. We can mention a
Oh.
good friend.
Ellen Pappas, you know who you are.
And if you're listening, Ellen, and that's interesting, but we thank you for your
Oh,
help.
you
with Trissa.
introduced me to her.
Was
Oh,
I?
kudos to you.
Oh, I do remember that,
You
yeah.
did. One of the highlights of my life. Thank God.
Being introduced to Ellen Pappas.
Yeah, well, yeah, life is meaning now.
And I think she's going to be on their show next week talking about her show.
Excellent.
And all these things tie into other things involving Trissa King. So one of the things I'm also very proud of you for getting involved in is, aside from performing now, you're also kind of taking a different role over the last couple of years. And you now are a keyboardist and you're a music. What's your role at Forum? What's your
I'm
title?
a musical director.
Pretty exciting stuff.
It was a little daunting at first. It still is daunting. I've never been in a position where I tell people what to do except my children. It was very
Not your husband?
no, no. Even then, it was like I'd leave suggestions and let's just see where he goes with that. I don't, order. I try not to order people around, but it's very, it was very enlightening, and it still is enlightening. Of here's the talent you've been given, and now work with them, and it's quite. I don't think there's any, what I want to say, a book on how to do that. If there is, I'll read it, because it's just been one day at a time learning how to do that.
But I think it's a great story about you is the fact that you're growing and developing new skills. In
Right.
other words, you had never done this before?
I had done the table read,
Right.
which was interesting too. But this is at a different level, a different show, different genre. It's still musical directing, but it's working with different people. Every show is different. Every show teaches me something of what my weaknesses are mostly, and where I need to grow and learn. Because I always have a beginner's mindset in every project I take on and off stage.
Now, do you have a preference at this point in time in your life? You could perform, you could play the keyboard, you could be a music director, You could be maybe eventually a director of a show. If you could, no,
No, no,
You
not
never
my
know.
skill set. Not my skill
Except
set.
in one of the things I hear a lot of actors say, and I think people in general, it's always good to never say no. You know, the answer is yes. You know, do you want to audition for it? Do you want to try this? And you grow into it. You know, you being with
Right.
this music director.
Right. That came out of left field. The director thing, I think I would have to trail somebody
Sure.
and watch what they do. But I think there's an innate talent that I've talked to a couple of director friends of mine. They can see pictures. They can see the scenes. I don't know how to do that. I don't know if it's a gift, if it can be taught, or it could be nurtured. I don't see pictures.
But you know, you just gave good advice for any listeners, especially in their theater, and that's the idea that if you want to learn something, follow the person or trail the person.
Right.
And you, as a compliment to you, you did that with Rich Schulman, for example, the Happy
Oh,
Together review.
Phenomenal pianist.
Right.
And I'm looking like, how does he do that change? How does he do that combo? How is he doing? Oh, that's a nice lick there. And I'm going, oh, yeah, I'd like hanging around him big time.
But isn't that a great way to learn something?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I learn by watching. I'm like a sponge. Teach me, teach me, teach me. Because, like I said, I always have a beginner's mindset.
And what you did with Richard, I know, is very helpful when we put together the Happy Together review, and we're going to be doing it again in a couple months, is that you then, sometimes you can make a rehearsal. So you would sit in
Right.
and doing the keyboard.
Yeah.
And that you were fantastic on that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It was my privilege being around all those great singers. It's a wonderful opportunity. Wonderful. I really enjoyed it.
Now let's talk also just briefly about some of the roles I've seen you in, because one of the things I appreciate the fact that you do is that if I haven't gotten to see your show, you'll remind me. You know, no,
I will, yes.
No, I so appreciate that you talking about Julius Caesar, because for some reason hadn't gotten to it. You called me the last minute, last day I saw the last show, and I had to get standing room only. It was at the door I had to get a ticket, but I thank you for that. But there have certainly been a lot of shows you've been in a short period of time, 4 years. I told you this also. For that one period of time, you weren't getting a lot of roles. I said, Trissa, overall, you've been in more stuff, I think, just about anybody I've seen. Do you have a favorite role you've done? You mentioned Julius Caesar, you mentioned Dr. The Seussical. Any
Yeah.
other roles that stick out?
Wow, that's a good question. I enjoyed doing Oliver. I liked being Mrs. Sowerberry. I like anything. Yeah, there you go. I like anything that requires using dialects. That's probably one of my favorite things to do, because again, there's that sound, there's that timbre, again, that color I like to employ and bring. Let's see, I liked working at the Center for Art and Entertainment, CAI. I think that's what it is. Sorry. I liked that. I liked, I can't think of one, because each role teaches me something.
One of the things I admire about you in particular is the fact that when you're in a role, you really take it on, and it can be a small role. And Oliver was kind of a good example, because you didn't have the lead, but you had a significant role. But every time to watch you was kind of fun,
Thank you.
because you're involved in every scene.
Right.
Where some people just kind of fade by the wayside.
Yeah, you bring it or don't show up. I bring it to rehearsals. I try to bring it to every performance. You don't phone it in.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
just-
phone it in.
But it's just kind of fun, because you'll watch you, and it looks like you're having fun doing it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. If you're not having fun, get off the stage. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's got to be enjoyable, because there's people that do this for a living, 8 shows a week, and you better be having fun, in my opinion, or it's going to get old real fast. It's going to become laborious.
And also, and here's something else, if you get Trissa King in one of your shows, you get an added bonus, because not only will you have Trissa perform and do her thing, but she'll also help feed you. Because
Oh yeah, snacks. Yes, it's not a snack. It's snacks.
What's a snack?
They're usually vegan based, and if I know any allergies that the casts have, I will, contour them to you. If you have a dairy allergy, a peanut allergy, I won't put them in my recipes. I will adapt to the person's allergy as best I can to the whole cast.
So now we know the secret then for getting cast. Just bring food.
Absolutely. Bring food. I'll feed you.
No, but or other people now will have everybody bring you food to,
That's true, yeah.
auditions or something. But it's kind of a cool thing you do, and that something to look forward to. And let's talk about the one you're currently involved in. So right now you're in, I guess, rehearsals. Show opens up. Is it next week or the
February
week after?
14th. February 14th, Valentine's Day. Yes.
And what show is that?
A funny thing happened on the way to the Forum, a Stephen Sondheim classic. Yeah, it's been very, very enjoyable. It's just I'm really having a good time. At first, like I said, I was like, what do I do here? Well, just do what you do, and it's been very, very enjoyable.
And
really
you've
good.
worked certainly with enough music directors that
Oh
you
yeah.
know.
Oh yeah.
what-
Yes. Yes. I gleaned ideas from many people, but I was going back mostly to my former choir teachers. That's where I've gotten a lot of the ideas that I've employed as far as warm ups and singing and working phrases, working musicality and things is from choir years ago.
Now, a funny thing happened on the way to the forum. You mentioned it was February 14th. It's going to be where?
Henderson Community Theater.
Okay, it's going to
Hendersonville.
for 3 weeks, 2 or 3
Yes,
weeks?
three weekends. Yes.
Okay. And you'll also get to see Ellen Pappas and,
Yeah.
and
Yes,
that.
yes, yes, please come.
A whole bunch of other
local-
good people.
yes.
Should be a lot of fun.
Oh yes, it's a romp. I'm having a really, really good time with this.
And something else I think, which is kind of people should kind of keep in mind too, is that again you're taking on this new role for the first time, but I guess you grow in it as you get more comfortable with it.
Right. I like the challenges. At first, probably when I was much younger, I kind of shied away from stuff, but now I've gotten to the place in my life where I says, okay, bring it. I'll give it a whirl. Because obviously somebody gave this to me that thinks I can do it. So if they believe in me, okay, I'll just, let's see what happens, and I go with it. And I always try to do my best, no matter what it is.
Now, one of the things you also do, Trissa, is, and I sometimes wonder about you in this sense, that you don't seem to sleep a lot.
I sleep. I do. I go to bed around 11-ish, 12-ish if
Yeah.
I'm at a show. But yeah, I sleep a good 7 hours.
Do you
easily.
really?
Yeah,
Because
nonstop.
I don't know how you do it in terms of all the stuff you're doing. Because aside from all the stuff we talked about theater, you also in your spare time do a couple other things. One of them is run,
Oh yeah,
and not only run, you exercise as well. How often do you run?
every day.
Every
Three,
day?
3 to 5 miles every day.
Yeah. How do you get that in?
Quickly. Quickly, usually. I give myself about 45 minutes to an hour or less. I run the hills in my neighborhood.
Do you run the dogs run with you?
No, they die. They would die. They're just little.
Little yipe yipes, little Havanese.
They can't keep up with me. They go a tenth of a mile and they tank. They're done. But I leave them in the house and I go take off, find the trails. I live about a mile and a half from the trails, and I just go run until I'm done. But yeah, every day.
And also, not only every day, it seems like every weekend, or you certainly do a lot of races as well.
Yeah.
How often do you do races?
On average, probably once or twice a month. It depends. There's been a couple of times where I signed up for a race and then something's come up and I can't do it. And I try not to race when I'm in a show, and there's a reason for that. When I'm performing in a show, the freak accident could happen in a race, because when I'm racing, I go all out. I go out to win. If something should happen where I trip on something or somebody trips me, I could be out for 4 to 6 weeks. It's never happened yet, but the possibility remains that it's always out there. So when I'm in a show, I don't race. I'll run, but I won't race.
Now, before you came to Asheville, were you running also?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
And
yeah,
were you
yeah.
running in races?
Oh yeah, I'd been racing since off and on since the early 90s. I'd work it around my kids' schedule. I've always worked out. I've worked out for 3+ decades.
Did the
doing
kids
something.
run with you?
My children don't have much of an interest in that. My fourth born is a gym rat. I mean, he likes the iron and throwing iron around and lifting and things like that. But I'm the only runner that I know of, unless it comes to them late. So
Because the only drawback with you running is I think you're going to have to move soon, because where do you put all your trophies and plaques and all that stuff?
I got a shelf down in my basement. It's downstairs. Yeah, it's fun. It's really enjoyable, and the running community is wonderful. Wonderful people, just really kind souls.
Now, I'm going to have to ask you, talk about perfect segue, souls. I'm going to have to ask you this
Yeah,
next
yeah,
question.
yeah.
We'll talk about you being barefoot, but in general, with races, are there any other barefoot racers?
Up in Ohio, we would have one. In fact, my mentor and I organized one. But down here, I'm the only one that I know of. And everybody is shod. And that's okay. I don't care. Do it works for you. But I'm the only one usually that is unshod.
And talk a little bit about that, Trissa, because you and I have had certainly discussions about this, that one of Trissa's claims to fame, you have a lot of claims to fame, but you are also the, I guess, the only barefoot person I know, or always barefoot. And I don't know if
Always.
you can just show it, just if you want to show, even today, she's modeling her beautiful feet. And Trissa, if you if you see Trissa, you'll see her barefoot
Correct.
almost all the time.
Always.
Are there some places that won't allow you in?
I had a couple of run-ins with people up north. They seem to be a little bit more closed-minded. And I would cite the laws, I would cite the regulations. And I had one instance in particular where this guy who was a little power hungry and in control thought that he could call the police and arrest me. And I waited and sat there, and they never showed up. And I said, go ahead, bring it. Go ahead. And they never showed up. So, yeah, it's mostly been up north. Here, not so much. Just mostly curious. I have to educate people that disease is spread by your hands, not my feet. Thank you. So it's just weird.
Have any stores tried to keep you out?
No.
Hospitals or any other place?
Hospitals at Mission, I had to educate them once again that there is no such law, there's no such regulation. I had to bring in even papers from Mission to say, look, it's not a problem. Now, if I work there, absolutely. I understand that, the whole cleanliness thing. But if I'm a patient, why?
What got you into being barefoot?
Good question. I've been a yoga practitioner off and on for, I guess, since about, 10 years now. When I started practicing yoga after class, when I would leave and put on my foot coverings, it didn't feel right. And the more I would practice and the more I got into the ground and into the earth, the less comfortable the shoes would feel. And to make a long story short, I discovered that living on shod was probably something Thor did 5 million years ago, and it worked for him. Our feet are designed, if you study them, which I have, to be unshod. This is not to say that you have to. I'm just saying it's the best for them. And I happen to also have a friend up north who was a barefoot runner too. And it was his invaluable coaching day in and day out that also encouraged me to live like this. I mean, I've gone sub-zero, -5 in snow for 2 miles. Nothing.
Well, I love it
Nothing.
too. I'll let you give the expression. You don't call them shoes people wear.
Foot coffins. Foot coffins. Because to me, that's what they do to the feet. That's what they atrophy the feet. They atrophy the three arches that get very old. They get shriveled up. But that's just my opinion. You can, do what you
Well,
want.
how about even running? Like you said, you've run in freezing weather.
Uh-huh.
Have you ever stepped on something or the glass or anything? What would happen?
At this point, nothing, because I got about a ½ inch natural God-designed sole, which I believe it is, of just callousness. And very little hurts me. Downhill on man-made gravel is tough. I still haven't mastered that yet, downhill.
So you'll feel that when you run.
I feel it, and I just go to my happy place on my imaginary yoga mat and just try to zen through it, but it's tough. That is my one challenge. I can do gravel normally, like if it's flat or uphill, doesn't bother me. But downhill racing on the pointy gravel, wow.
You mentioned yoga. Are you still doing yoga?
Yes, I do. I practice at Hot Yoga Asheville about 3 or 4 times a week, and it's the the opposite of running. It keeps me long and connected, and yeah, I love it. I love it.
What's next on your agenda? We'll finish. We'll do the show you're in. Anything else on the horizon?
I'm thinking of just auditioning, but I'm going to be a little bit more selective about where I audition. I have to make sure that I can't travel too far out of town because I have the puppies. They can't stay for more than 5 or 6 hours and they go ballistic. So I think auditioning, I'm thinking of just taking one day as it comes, at a time.
I know they have a lot of auditions coming up too.
Yes, in February I'm going to do a few and just see where things land. I've just learned to be very content of what is.
That's probably kind of the fun thing, that you always have something kind of different you're working on.
Yeah, I am. That's very, very true. And I'll just see where things come, see where life takes me.
Trissa, if anybody wants to get in touch with you, either for to see what you're doing, or you're doing a whole bunch of things, your races, your yoga, your performing, best bet is how to reach you.
Probably Facebook. Just type my name in, friend me. I friend almost anybody that wants to be my friend, and that's probably the best way, through Facebook.
Okay, and then I certainly recommend it to people if Trissa's willing to accept your being a friend, because she's quite an individual, and I will definitely enjoy being her friend.
Well, thank you. Same
And
here.
One of my pleasures, since you've been here in Asheville 4 years, is count you as a friend. And
Same
I
here.
I thank you for being my guest this first
Oh.
half hour on the Blaine's World Show. I'm going to have to get you back because I made a note next time we'll just have you do a half an hour of voices. Well, I want to do that
Oh,
with
yeah,
you.
all my impersonations. I can do all that. I can do it in 5 but we're running out of time. Sorry. Okay.
You got it. Thanks, Trissa.
You're
Trissa
welcome.
works her way out of the studio. Let me mention that support for the show and WPVM is underwritten by Grail Movie House, Asheville's alternative cinema. The Grail Movie House is an independent, locally owned, three-screen cinema located in downtown Asheville. For current features, visit the Grail website at www.grailmoviehouse.com or the Grail's social media pages. As the next guest is working her way into the studio, I'd like to mention a couple of other activities coming up in the Asheville area, especially the theater scene. Two of my friends, Philippe Andre Coquette and Tasha Pepe, and with piano support by Bob Strain, are presenting something called On Broadway. And that's something they do, I think they're doing Sunday nights at the AVL Beauty Academy. Have you heard about that, Rebecca?
I have not. Tell
Okay,
me.
come on, move a little bit forward.
Okay.
But yeah, you may know some of them, Philippe or Tasha, and every Sunday they get together and just play the piano, and
Mm-hmm.
people sing and do, whatever songs they want to sing.
Every Sunday?
Yeah, apparently. And also, it's, I haven't been there yet, too. Are you familiar with the AVL Beauty Academy?
I am.
Yeah, new venue in town.
Mm-hmm.
In addition, something I'm going to be seeing this weekend, January 31st to February 2nd, is Seven Singers Singing, a musical review featuring Richard Blue, Mandy Bean, Alex Squazzo, Nana Hosma Griffin, Tasha Pepe, Matt Wade, and Hannah Williams, and that's going to be at the Magnetic Theater this coming Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Should be a lot of fun.
That's great. I'm so glad that they're.
Yeah, and we want to
Doing
kind of
that.
face the mic right there. That'd be
Okay.
great.
Yep.
And so let me introduce my second guest this BLAINESWORLD show, somebody I've wanted to interview for a while. And she is Rebecca Oquinn, is a choreographer, singer, dancer, actor, counselor. She's worked at SAUD, Asheville Ballet, Mars Hill University, Warren Wilson College. Rebecca, you can, first of all, say hello to all Humanity fans and friends on Facebook.
Hi, you guys. How
Okay.
you doing?
Great, they're all watching Rebecca. And Rebecca, the question I always ask, because you kind of, I know you in two contexts. I know you as an actor, I know you as a dancer.
Yep.
You're also a singer, too. We'll talk a little bit about that. How did you get into the whole performing thing?
How did I get into it?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
When did you start?
Well, I grew up on country music and was always very encouraged in that way. And, I grew up singing in church and so was influenced by a lot of like gospel music and old time country music, things like that. And then I started playing the piano classically around age 7 or 8.
Just move a little bit closer to the
Okay.
mic. That'd
this
be
one?
great. Yeah.
All right. And then I started ballet lessons pretty late, around age 12 or 13, fell in love with it. And then get involved in theater in high school when I was about 16 and decided to go to performing arts school. I went to Elon University as a music theater major and dance performance major.
Do you remember the first show you were ever in?
Yes.
What?
It was a middle school production of West Side Story.
Okay. You remember that?
I do.
Now, the question, and you'll see where it's going to, did anybody ever tape that?
Did they tape it?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
Because I have this great idea, Rebecca. We'll do it at SAUD or we'll do it someplace.
Okay.
But I'd like everybody to come on to a fundraiser, and everybody would do their very first performance.
Okay.
So since you didn't tape it,
Oh, yeah.
a little kid, wouldn't that be cool that Rebecca Oquinn, is that how you pronounce Oquinn? Is it the last name?
That's right.
Wouldn't that be great if we could have your first performance and capture it?
That would be hilarious. I love that idea.
I think
yeah.
I just think a lot. Everybody I speak to says they'd love to do it because
Mm-hmm.
nobody ever has that original performance.
That's right.
So you were in that role, and where'd you go from there then, in terms of performing?
Oh gosh, yeah. So as I said, I mean, I was raised as kind of a choir nerd and classical music nerd, growing up singing in church, and got really involved in choir and drama club and ballet performances. We did the Nutcracker every year, things like that. So, yeah,
Do you have a preference as to what kind of stuff you do?
no.
No, you like doing it all?
I do, yeah. I get really, I don't want to say I get bored, but I get a little bit antsy if I am doing only one thing, at a time. So I like doing everything. I find it hard to imagine not doing one of the things in my life.
Musical or drama? Do you have a preference as to what kind of stuff?
Oh, I'm a song and dance girl.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I think that's how I first met you at Saw It. You've been in a bunch of things at Saw It. I'm trying
That's
to think
right.
what was the first role I may have seen you in at Saw It.
Gypsy.
Gypsy. Okay, yeah.
Mhm.
I've seen you. I think I've seen you in everything at Saw It. But Gypsy was kind of a fun role.
That's right. Yep, Gypsy Rose Lee.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite role?
Oh, definitely
at-
that one.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah,
And that was one of your first roles at Saw It?
that's right. It was the first one.
Why was that your favorite role?
Why? I enjoyed really getting to follow the psychological growth of this girl who was kind of coming into her own and figuring out who she was outside of her family. And, she started off being this very shy, self deprecating young girl and kind of, I think, gained a little bit of independence and self esteem through the performing arts world and kind of came into her power, as it were.
And also, I think that I remember that show because you got to perform with Liz Aiello.
That's
You know,
right.
it's kind of a perfect role for her. And that was kind of fun. Any other favorite roles come to mind?
Oh, gosh.
Just mention them, because if you mention, I'm pretty sure I'll probably have seen you in it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed playing the part of June in Smoke on the Mountain
So, okay, yeah.
the following summer. That was funny. It was actually my first comedic role, so it was a challenge because, as I said, I had always been a song and dance girl. Do a tap number and then belt a bunch of notes and ta-da, that's me. That's what I do. And this one really required me to kind of loosen up a bit and get a little silly. And I had no idea how it's gonna go. I was like, I'm not a funny person. Like nobody's gonna think this is funny. So I remember, that first night, kind of going through the motions, and a lot of it, like, I had just kind of crafted myself. The director just said, like, just be silly, do whatever you want, and like the crowd is just uproarious and grabbing their bellies, and I was like, what is this? I had no idea.
Well, you say something interesting there. I think it's kind of good advice to people as to not put a negative thought in your mind.
Yeah.
In other words, that we can all be funny, we can't
Yeah.
necessarily all sing or dance, but it's the idea that you just did it and you were funny.
Yeah.
And now you're a funny person. I want to ask you to tell a joke, but anyway.
Oh, boy.
But that's kind of cool, though. So talk to me a little bit then how you then got into doing choreography.
Sure. Well, yeah, my undergrad was in music theater and dance performance, and so that was a part of the training. I think, I also pay the bills by being a dance instructor, and so it kind of just goes along with the territory. I really enjoy being in a leadership management role, and there's a lot of organization that comes through that, and I think, people recognize that, and I, started choreographing with Asheville Ballet, and it kind of went through there. People just start going, hey, do you feel like choreographing this show? And I go, yeah, sure. And it all kind of culminates. And, there are times that I feel like I prefer choreographing as opposed to performing in the show, depending what the show is.
Do you remember the first show you ever choreographed?
Oh, gosh. Little things here and there, but I remember, one of the first prominent memories that I have of having more in-depth choreography was on the Diana Wortham stage with Asheville Ballet. We put a show together with a cello and classical guitar duo on stage and had the entire company of dancers, and I got to put 3 pieces on these dancers with this live music, and I just remember stepping back and going like, wow, that's what I made. This is amazing.
One of the things I think in at least musical theater in Nashville is the person who does the choreography, and I think this has been your case, is oftentimes in the show also, or I've
Sure.
seen that. I've seen it with you sometimes, haven't I, that you'll be
Yep.
the choreographer and then you'll be the dancer, you'll be dancing in it too?
That's right.
Trying to think, some recent show saw that. Do you have a preference as to, now a couple of different skills you had, do you have a preference as to what you like doing best? Performing, doing the choreography, singing? Do you ever, if you could choose one thing?
Oh gosh, I like a show where I get to do it all. If there are those shows, I will say that I prefer. It's always best for me if I can separate those roles. Okay, as a choreographer, I really prefer to be able to step back, see the entire picture, so that I can do the best job as a choreographer that I can. It's really hard to then step in and be yourself. I like to put myself in performer role or and mindset or choreographer mindset. So
I admire choreographers so much. So, especially for an experience I had with Jerry Crouch
Yep.
several years ago, he does Business Things Broadway, and this is a funny story. He didn't have a separate choreographer, but I'm not a singer, I'm not a performer, but I got up on stage, sang a song. We practiced that 2 weeks. Then the day before the show, he says, "I want to teach you choreography."
Oh,
you know,
boy.
and so he's saying, "You go here, you go here." And we're all going into each other, and it made me appreciate, it's tough enough to learn a song, tough enough to sing it. On top of that, the Ginger Rogers thing, I had to be able to move with the song too. That's tough, for a non-dancer, a non-performer.
sure.
How do you get to people if they've never done it before? And I guess you work with that a lot, not necessarily the ballet, but it shows
Yeah.
people have never done dancing before.
Well, it depends. If I'm choreographing on kids, I might choreograph and teach in a certain way. If I'm choreographing and teaching adults, it's a totally different technique. But I find that going with what is intuitive and what feels natural is the best way to teach people movements. In fact, like one of my favorite things to do is to teach adults who believe that they cannot dance or that there's a slim chance that they could ever learn. I'm going, nope, I've seen it, I've done it, I promise you this will go fine.
Well, it's funny you say that, and you've never taught me yet, so we should hold on that comment. But it's like, same thing too, as a kid, I told the story, I'll tell it quickly, that I wanted to take singing lessons. I remember telling my mother that, and so 7 years old, she puts me in front of some lady who plays the piano. I remember afterward, I said, "Mom, how come I never got singing lessons?"
Yeah.
And I figured the piano teacher must have told my mother, "Save the money," So the point is, I didn't sing for 50 years, and I had an audition for Jerry, and the person doing it said I could carry a tune, somewhat.
Okay.
But I was amazed. But the point is so true with what you said about dancing,
Yeah.
that we're told or we tell ourselves that we can't do something, and so we never do it.
That's right.
And that's kind of a shame,
Yeah.
you know.
And why do we get the idea that, new skills stop getting learned at age, 20, 25? Why do
Good
we
point.
get this idea? We have so much life. Yeah.
Do you teach dancing classes to non-dancers, not necessarily through the ballet, but do you teach other
I do.
dancing classes?
Mm-hmm.
What
Lots
kind-
of adult classes. Mm-hmm.
What kind of dance classes are they?
Oh, everything. Ballet, tap. I love teaching tap to adults. I mean, mostly because it's a movement based class, but it is a music class as well. So,
Can anybody be taught tap?
yes. Absolutely.
You just have to give it a shot, though.
You have to meet each person ideally where they are and move with them where they need to go.
It must be exciting to you as a teacher to see somebody who has the mindset they can't dance, and then to actually perform.
Yeah.
And to actually, when they take a course with you, at the end of it, is there some sort of recital or performance?
Oh, it depends. If they want to learn something like that, that's fine. If not, I really don't have this idea that every artistic endeavor has to culminate in some performance or presentation. It can, and that's certainly part of the business. But, again, where did we get this idea that we can't just enjoy something in the moment? Why does there have to be some goal or some presentation for the rest of the world?
Reminds me though of a Mickey Rooney, Judy Garland kind of
That's
thing.
right.
Let's put on a show,
Yeah.
But that's a really good point, that just take something because you want to learn it,
Yeah.
not have to perform it.
Because it's enjoyable.
Talk to me a little bit about Becca too. I know you in terms of the choreography. I've seen yourself. I know you as a singer performer, but you also sing outside of shows and stuff like that, you also do music. You sing in a band, or
That's
talk a little
right.
bit about that.
So I have my own honky tonk and country folk rock blues roots band called Rebecca and the Reckoning, and I sing with several other projects. One is the Floyd Philharmonic. It's a Pink Floyd tribute band. And just other like duos and trios throughout town. That's actually, what I started doing as a very young child before I even got involved in theater and dance. So,
The mistake we made, I should have had you be prepared to sing some songs, because we do that, or we'll have you come back.
yeah.
Seriously, with one of your groups, because I've had that, several people do that, and we do like a mini concert kind of thing. And so it can be acoustic, or some of it's acoustic.
Sure,
So let's
yeah.
do that, and have you come back with your band or with your group, and do 3-4 songs. It'd be a lot of
Okay.
fun.
Yeah.
So how long have you been doing that?
Well, I've had this country band here in town for about 3 years. Before that, I was with a jump blues and swing band for a couple years by the name of Virginia and the Slims. Yeah,
Okay, and do you have so your primary thing is country type stuff?
no doubt. Yep.
Do you do anything else?
Musically?
Yeah.
Gosh. Whoever calls me at the time and says, "Hey, we need this voice on this project." So, yeah.
So how often does your group perform?
We're about a couple times a month right now. Yeah.
And so people don't realize it too. How often do you rehearse?
Couple times a month, maybe 2 to 4 times. Yeah.
Okay. Because people don't realize that, it's always the whole argument, should be musicians be paid, should the antennas be paid? And people don't realize that they put a lot of time into it.
Absolutely.
What's the joke? You probably know it, something like, you spend 50 hours to get $5, tips or something, if
Sure.
you get that.
Yeah. And that's a great point that you make. I mean, we're performing once, we rehearse together a
Right.
couple times per gig, but then I'm also doing a lot of the promo work and, creating charts and creating a rehearsal schedule for everybody and managing, the management and the organization part of fronting a band and managing a band is, countless hours. If I added all those up, I'd probably
Well, exactly. $2.27 an hour.
Yeah,
you get
if that, yeah, exactly.
Well, I saw this idea, Rebecca. I'd be curious to get your reaction to it. But some places have actually tried a tip idea for performers. You have your meal, you have your drinks, and you have an optional tip for performers. Have you
Yep.
ever seen that?
I have not.
Yeah, isn't that a neat idea?
That's
I saw
great.
that years ago on Facebook, and a couple of places do that. I thought it'd be a great way because, if you rely on tips, you get something, but you don't get necessarily a lot of money or
That's
pass the
right.
hat.
Yeah.
And what venues pay you, there's only so much they can pay you. So it's just that people don't realize that you put a lot of time into it. So one of the things I always liked about Saw It is that whatever the amount is, they pay something. And I'd like to see all theaters do that. That.
Myself as well.
No, I really believe in that. That it's funny. Musicians, I never understood this either. I won't tell the theaters, but musicians always get paid. If you're performing or keyboardist or whatever, guitar, you're going to get paid. But the actors, a lot of theaters in town, don't get paid. I thought there's something wrong with that picture.
Yeah, I think there's a different model for each of the theaters in town, and each of them has their own way of organizing that and keeping the books. But yeah, you're right.
But just as you said, they all do different things, and they all do them well. But it's just that it's kind of unfair, I think, that some people get paid, and some people don't get paid, And if you tend to be so you play with the country band. Do you play an instrument also?
I do, yeah. I play on acoustic guitar with my band.
Really? Mm-hmm. So, boy, you have a lot of different skill sets here. How long have you been playing the guitar?
Oh, I picked it up when I was around 21, 22.
Yeah. Did you ever study it?
I have never had formal lessons, no.
That's really
This is
interesting.
just like me listening and watching people and, taking some tips here and there. But yeah, I've never had formal lessons. Probably should, but
In your spare time.
yeah, that's
Well,
right.
Well, what little spare time you do, because
Exactly.
you keep a little busy, do you?
I keep very busy, yep.
Being Rebecca Oquinn, do you have roll skates also, or no? I wonder, how do you get from one thing to the other, or does it ever get confusing?
Very confusing. Yep. I am I try to stay very organized with my time. I mean, yeah, just ask the people that know me. I mean, if I were to pull out my schedule book and, my iPhone here and, just show you exactly how to the letter everything in my day is, you maybe get just about as tired as I am. But, it's all worth it.
Well, I have a discussion with my wife now. She's finally using her iPhone for scheduling. I still use the old-fashioned day timer.
Yeah.
Do you use it on the iPhone?
Yeah, I just put everything in the calendar, and if somebody's supposed to show up at a certain time and place with me, they get immediately invited, and it goes on their calendar, and yeah.
Okay. So, in terms of juggling all the different things you do you have any recommendation to people? Teach me about this. How do you do what you do, in terms of juggling all these different things?
Oh.
Is there a secret to it?
Yeah, I think having a lot of self awareness, first of all, as to your motivations to why you want to do something, being really clear with yourself as to what your values are and what's really important to you in life, and saying yes to those things, and then also having the ability to say no, I think is probably one of the most important things that we could all learn.
Let's talk about that because I don't think a lot of people can do that. That
Yes.
you say no to projects.
I do. Mm-hmm.
What
Graciously, of course,
Yeah.
but yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because the other side says, performers have told me this, that the idea is to say yes to everything so you don't turn down anything, but you don't miss anything. But I guess
Yeah.
at some point in time, especially when you're scheduling two things at the same time, that's a little tough.
Yeah, I try to be really clear with myself when I say yes to a project, to ask all the right questions. When is this rehearsing? How much outside of this performance time are you asking me for? How much does it pay? How much, and then weighing that against how much time it's going to take out of the schedule. And because I like being a person that when I say yes to something, that I show up prepared, very organized, and do a really good job. And I know that the only way that I can do that is if I schedule my time well. And if it feels like, a project that someone is asking me to do is going to take time that I just don't realistically have, I'll say that. I'll say, man, this sounds like a really, really great project, and I wish that I could do all of them. Here's the thing. I need to be able to do the best job that I can do for you, and I don't think that I would be able to do that. So
Great
that's usually
response.
what I'll say.
You also had the magic question. I'm glad you put it in. You said, how much you get paid? And
Sure.
so it's okay for performers to ask that question?
Yeah, I would question what if they did not. I'd be curious as to why they wouldn't ask that.
Well, but the answer, I love it, Rebecca. Sometimes you'll hear, well, you're going to get exposure. It's going to be great for you to be
Yeah.
in a show and all these people see you, but exposure, I guess, doesn't pay the bills
It does not.
too much.
It does not.
Down the road moving forward, what's happening with Rebecca Oquinn in the future?
Oh, show-wise?
Yeah, show-wise and other stuff. Yeah.
Gosh, I mean, I could tell you about the next month probably.
Okay, get out your phone.
I think I can do that without the phone. Maybe we'll see. So coming up this Friday, I will be a part of the Franklin Keel birthday show at ISIS. He's performing with his band Upland Drive and many guest performers, of which I will be a part. So that happens this Friday. Next up, we have the Asheville Opry on February 9th. There's going to be 3 bands. My band is one of them, joined by Devils and Dust and Tim McWilliams on acoustic guitar. I'm very excited about that. That's February 9th. Then coming up on February 12th at Double Crown, I'll be singing with a bunch of my friends some love songs as a tribute to one of our favorite holidays, Valentine's Day. So
Okay.
that's about what I can think of right now.
In the spare time. And down
Yeah.
the road, are you working on any long-term projects?
Long-term projects. I have a season coming up with SART. It's up in the air as to what that's going to look like, but I'm forever and continuously grateful to be a part of their years. So
And again, to mention the folks that saw it in Mars Hill, they've just done a tremendous job over the last couple of years.
Yes.
Made a tremendous comeback with a beautiful facility.
Yep.
I was involved with it when they didn't have the beautiful facility, but it's quite a difference. They do great shows. In terms of your performing, do you write any songs?
I do.
Do you too? How many songs have you written?
Oh, countless. I'd probably be okay with sharing about 10 of them, but that's how that goes. Yeah.
And are you always writing songs?
Not always, no. There are other songwriters that they have a daily practice. They write a song a
Right.
day, or they're always coming up with ideas and putting them together. I probably write one good song that I feel really, really great about once every 4 months.
Well, what I want you to do seriously, and I made a note of it.
Yeah.
Let's have you come on back next time you come on board.
Yeah.
And we'll have you sing some of your songs, or it's really cool. We'll give like a mini concert. You know, Magie. Do you know her?
I do not.
Anyway, just did it recently, and she was just on a show with the Fringe Festival, and she, it was really cool to just have her sing on the show.
Yeah.
Just her and singing. In terms of writing songs, how long have you been writing songs?
Oh, since I was 12 years old, probably.
How do you get the idea for a song?
By listening to a lot of songs. I mean, the more music that I listen to, the more inspired I am.
Because one of the things, again, I admire about you as a performer, I admire any performer, is, the fact that you can memorize the stuff. We'll go back to the dancing. And dancing, I guess, has changed now, too, because of videotaping. Does it make it easier to teach dance, or?
Oh, that's a loaded question. Not for me. I find it very difficult if somebody videos something, to learn that choreography off of a video. But, the kids these days, they're using the technology more and more, and will have me video things for reference or whatever. So.
Do you recommend people, if they're going to be in a show, for example, should they look at a show beforehand or just meet with the choreographer?
Explain to
Like
me a little bit
Gypsy,
more.
for example. If
Yeah.
you're going to be in Gypsy, should you see how it was done in the past or just start it fresh?
Oh, I will try to take reference from past performances, productions. But sometimes when someone assigns me to the show, I will immediately cut myself off from listening to any cast recordings or watching previous productions, because I want the ideas to be really authentic.
Because people say that, it kind of ruins them if they watch it. But talking about, I've never asked this of somebody who does choreography, but the idea that, explain this to me, that you can write out too, there's a whole way to write out where people have to move.
Sure. Yeah, I think different choreographers have different techniques. I'll, draw little diagrams and arrows of where people are supposed to go, and, write names for moves that nobody else would understand but me. So, yeah.
And so people learn it just by doing it, I guess?
Yeah, I think so. For me, I think it's a lot easier to memorize, words to a song if you have the movement with it, and vice versa. So.
Because people say that dialogue is easier to memorize to a song than straight dialogue. Is it easier to memorize to a song?
I think so. Absolutely.
And that's interesting. So add in the choreography, and it actually makes it easier for some people.
Yep. I think, because you associate where you're standing on stage with the word that you're singing at the moment, and vice versa. So, yeah.
If folks want to get more information about Rebecca Oquinn as to some of the upcoming projects you're doing or some of the stuff you'll be doing, what's the best bet?
Yeah, so I have my website, RebeccaOquinnOnStage.com, and you can visit my individual Facebook pages at Rebecca Oquinn on Stage Facebook, and then Rebecca and the Reckoning on Facebook.
Okay, if they go there, will they see some of your performances as well?
Yes, it'll all be under events.
Okay, and one last time, the upcoming thing you're going to be doing, Rebecca, the next couple?
Well, I will be at ISIS this Friday with a special guest appearing with Upland Drive, and on February 9th, I will also be with the Asheville Opry at ISIS.
Okay, and I also look forward to seeing you at SART this coming year.
Yeah.
Hope you're on a bunch of things. I'd like to
Well,
thank you, Rebecca Oquinn, for being my guest this second half hour on the Blaine's World Show. Also, thank Trissa King for being my guest the first half hour. Amy Prisnash, my producer, and Dezuzu Welsh, who provided the music here at the beginning of the show, and I'll be hearing at the end. Look forward to having you join me next Wednesday at 9 a.m. here on the new WPVM LP in Asheville, North Carolina. You can also listen online at WPVM.org and watch us on WPVM's Facebook page. See you next week.